Now, I'm going to talk to you today about the cost of setting up a business. Let's just assume you are thinking about starting a business, and it's again, I'm going to talk about a healthcare recruitment business. Let's just keep it very simple. Let's just talk about the healthcare recruitment business, as this is the main theme of this channel. What are the costs involved in opening up a business? And now this may be different depending on where you are in the world, but we are talking mainly in the UK here. And the UK, we have a wonderful system when it comes to starting businesses and setting up businesses. We've made it very, very easy for people to get onto the business ladder. You have to have your own money, of course you do. No one's going to help you. But actually saying that, there's also trusts, i.e. the Prince's Trust, etc., where you can actually go out there. If you've got a good business idea, a good business plan, you can go and you can apply for some grants if that's what you want, and that will be able to help you. But we're going to be assuming in this video that you have no assistance at all. It's just you and the world. How do you start? How do you get onto this ladder? So first and foremost, you have to register your company. I'm guessing you've chosen a name for your business. Make sure it's a catchy name, because there's a lot of competition out there. You want to be able to stand out. So you've selected a name. Now you need to register that name. Where do you go? What do you do? You need to go, you can do this very easily at a very cheap, low cost nowadays. In the UK, you go to Companies House. There's various different organizations, which if you just Google it, you'll find how to set up your organization. It's going to take you 5 minutes, literally. We just need your very basic information, and you are set. You've got your company name, a name which nobody else will have, because you'll have to register it. We're talking about registering a limited company. So whatever company it is going to end with limited or Ltd at the end of it all. And so you register. I think it costs around 13 or 14 pounds or something, the last time I looked, to set up your own company. So you pay that fee, you set up the company, voila, you've got an organization now. You are now the proud owner of an organization. You are the director of a company, which is fantastic. Now you're all set. Not quite. You've just about literally stepped into the world of business now. So you just have to, oh, by the way, your certificates, you can choose whether that arrives to you via email or via post. You can even have a registered office set up somewhere in London. They'll give you options as to where you want your registered company to be. If you have an office, then fine. A lot of people choose to use their home address as the registered company. When you're first setting up, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't make any difference as to what address you use, depending on the type of business. Some businesses you may choose to avoid using your home address, especially where it involves a lot of people coming to see you. You don't want everyone knowing your home address. So that's something to bear in mind. So you set up your company, and now you're ready to go. Now, what do you do? Do you work from home, or do you work from an office background? Again, as I mentioned, depending on the type of business which you have chosen to do, it may not be appropriate for you to be working from your home. A lot of people do. I started my business from home at first. For the first month or so, I was working from home. And although it involved no other additional costs to myself, I found that I needed an office, because it's a recruitment business, and I was inviting people to come round. But what I was doing, I wasn't inviting people to come round to my house. I was asking them to meet me in a coffee shop and other places. You can do that for a little while, but in the long term, it's just not right. Because what happens is you lose a little bit of credibility. If I asked you, let's just say you contacted me for a job, and I say to you, yes, can I meet you in this coffee shop? You may think, hang on a second, I'm registering with you. You're supposed to be a business. Why am I meeting you at a coffee shop? So those are the basic questions that go into people's minds. So what happens is you might even think it's a scam. You may not even turn up at the coffee shop. although you'll get a free coffee, that's not something which you're looking for. You want to be able to register with a legitimate, credible organization. So this is why I chose to actually go into an office. And the type of office, there's lots of office spaces now. And you can choose to go into a Regis, or you've got so many different serviced offices out there at very competitive rates, shall I say. And you only need a desk. You usually pay for a desk in these sort of offices. So the cost can be very, very low. But I do advise, whatever business you're going into, 99% of the times, I would say my advice to you would be go and get an office, get a desk somewhere where you can pay for it. It can be a couple of £100 per month, depending on how many people there are, etc. And we're assuming it's only you that's going to be working in there. So get a desk, set yourself up, and that's it. Now, legal and administrative costs. As I've mentioned, in the UK, we've got a very easy system, and we know exactly. You can set your company up on Google. You don't really need to go to a solicitor or anyone else to assist you. In some countries you do, and it's a very rigorous process. But here we're very fortunate to have a very, very easy system where we're encouraged to do business, and it's a wonderful, wonderful system that we have here. So, in terms of cost with the solicitors, you don't really need to spend much money on legal and administrative setup, etc. The only thing which you do need to have a little bit of money set aside at this point of time, maybe you need a business card. Okay, you need signage at this point of time, because whenever you see somebody, you need to be able to give them something in the form of a business card. So you need to invest in a good business card. Okay, so that's something which I would say, but there isn't too many legal loopholes or too much money to be spent on legal issues at this point of time. I mentioned in a previous video about marketing and the importance of marketing and advertising. You have to do this, guys. If you don't advertise, if you don't market yourself, nothing's going to happen. So again, we are opening up a recruitment consultancy. We're opening up a healthcare recruitment consultancy. You need to put a little bit of thought into where you're going to be advertising. And I think I need to do a separate video on marketing and advertising altogether. So I'm just going to keep this light, and I'm just going to say to you, you can use so many different methods of advertising, but you have to really identify what's going to work for you, because before you know it, you can actually be spending a lot of money and it's not really going to yield you much of a result. So you need to be careful as to where you spend money. Okay, so you can use the social media, Facebooks and Instagram, etc. Even the social media, some social media platforms are better than others, depending on the type of people you're trying to attract. I always use this example where I say Facebook is usually used by people of an older generation, whereas maybe TikTok is used by the younger generation of people. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, that's kind of the area. That's the kind of truth there. So be selective. Be selective as to what you use, because it can be very important, and certainly it will be very, very costly. But most importantly, as I've mentioned, if you don't want to be demoralized, because you can be at the early stages, anything can really demoralize you. And if you've placed an advert, let's just say, for a nurse, and not a single soul has come back to you, you're going to feel a bit crap. So if you don't want that, you need to, first of all, don't feel crap, because it happens. Secondly, you need to analyze as to where you should be placing these adverts in the first place. Maybe it's leaflets that you need to send through people's doors. Now, it's a very old-fashioned way of doing things, but again, where people live in a house, and most people, if you post something through their door, they will take a look at it. How seriously they will take it, you don't know, but it depends on what you're trying to achieve. Hopefully, I've done this in the past. I've posted leaflets, and believe it or not, depending on, for one of my businesses, leaflets actually worked very well. I actually argued with somebody, the leader of that business. I argued that it won't work. I said to her, no, leaflets do not work, not in 2023. But she, with all due respect, she argued back with me. She said, it will change, it will work. She placed the adverts. We spent a little amount of money on the leaflets and printing and distribution of it. but the kind of results that we started getting back, it was a bit surprising and shocking to me, to be honest, but it does work. So never discount anything. Look at what will work for you. Sometimes you have to test a few different things to find out what is actually best for you in your local geography as well, because that's an important component. Have some money, think about what you're going to advertise and utilize it. You need to do this. If you just sit there not advertising and then thinking, why does no one call me? It's only you to be blamed here, to be fair. Technology and software. What do I mean by technology and software? There's the CRM systems which we use. Now, when I first started the business, the CRM system is a customer relationship management tool, by the way. So it's a system that which you use to, it's a database really of all the information that you have collated. But do you need this immediately? I don't think so. You don't need that. I used an Excel sheet for years until I got to a point, not for years, but certainly for the first year or so, I used an Excel sheet, because you need to remember things, and we can't remember everything. You don't, so you can use an Excel, and Excel will have all the information stored in there, i.e. names, date of birth, and all the other relevant information and all this kind of stuff. So you can refer back to that as and when you need to. So you do need to have an Excel sheet, but you get to a point maybe where your business is actually kicking off and it's doing fantastically well. So the business is growing. So, or you may have, you may have recruited another person who works in your office as an administrator to support you. So therefore, they may need a customer user system where they can actually use as to who they have spoken to at a client's location, or which candidate they have spoken to, where in the process is that candidate in terms of the recruitment, and so on and so on. If you go for a CRM system, the CRM system will usually attract a monthly fee. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money. It could be £20 or £30 a month for most of them, but it is still a cost, and it's based on the number of users. So if it's just yourself and an administrator, that may be 20 times 2, that's £40 a month that you have to put. But if you don't have £40 every month, that's still quite a lot. So this is why I suggest when you're first starting off, use Excel or Word and other documents which are free to use, and you can just as well utilize that. But when you get to a certain stage in your business process, you will have to invest in that. But at that point, I don't think you're going to be afraid of using that. In fact, I think you'll be happy to be able to use the system which you need. You don't need much else. So we have a laptop, we have the internet, and that's basically what you need in order to start off any business. Oh, and a phone, and a mobile phone, of course, because you'll be making lots and lots and lots of phone calls if you want to be successful. If you don't want to be successful, then obviously, I'm guessing you want to be successful. That's why you're here. So that's what you need. Staffing costs, yeah. So as I've mentioned, you do need at some point to have someone else who is helping you. More than anything, it's very, very lonely when you're starting a business by yourself. You're there usually in a dark room. It's just you, your computer screen, and your phone. That's it. That's all you have. It can be very, very daunting. It can be it's a sad existence. But when you make business happen and things are going in the right direction, what you will find, which is such a positive thing, is that you will need someone else to help you in the office. I got a relative to come and help me when I first started, and at that time I couldn't even afford to pay him, but he was very generous and he offered his services pretty much for free. In fact, I'd say it was for free. Now, you may not be that fortunate. You may need to actually pay somebody, and if it's a family member, etc., who's willing to help you, or a friend who's going to help you, even for a little fee, take that offer. You need somebody else to help you. Just as I've mentioned to you, even from a moral support point of view, somebody who's just sitting there next to you when you're feeling down, for them to just say to you, keep going, it's okay. That's what you do need. And other times, look, when you're recruiting, you need another person, because one person, for instance, one person needs to make the business calls to the clients, and that person may also need to go and visit the clients. But then you also need to recruit people at the same time. If it's one of you, if it's only one person, it will become very, very difficult. In fact, it's impossible, because you're running around like a headless chicken. You just won't be able to do it. So as soon as you possibly can, I do advise that you get someone else to sit with you in the office to help you with some of the administrative tasks. Okay, so you will then be able to focus on certain things, and that other person will be able to take some of the load from you. They will be able to, at the very least, then they'll be able to complete the application form or interview some of the staff that you're recruiting at the very least. So that's why you need somebody else there. Very important. See how you fare, but as soon as you can, get someone else to help you. Insurance. Now, you do need insurance when you start off the business, especially if you have staff. So I mentioned to you about having a person who's sitting next to you. It is a legal requirement in the UK that we cover anybody who is working within our organization. This is where the limited company comes into force. The limited basically means whatever losses there are, whatever components there are within the business is going to be limited within the confines of that business. Okay, but that business needs to be insured. So if I'm working in that business, if I get someone else working in that business, God forbid something happens, we need to know that the third party is covered, and I'm also covered, and also my staff, they're also covered. This is why you need to have this insurance. Usually it's employees liability insurance, and a public indemnity insurance, I believe. There's two insurances. I may be slightly off. I haven't looked at that recently, but there's two insurance that you do need, and it's not that expensive either. It's the more you do in business, the more expensive it will become, because it depends on the number of people that it's covering and so on. But when you're first starting off, it's a very basic fee, and you need to have this. So look into all the different insurances there. As I say, there's usually two different insurance, and the level of cover which you need is something which is quite important also when you're talking about insurance. Most businesses, most smaller businesses will accept you with a insurance cover of up to about £2 million. But depending on who you're supplying, and if you're supplying someone larger, so let's just take the NHS in the UK, for instance. We've got the NHS. Now the NHS, they are obviously, it's a huge organization. There's a certain level of safety which they need to make sure that kind of circles, them. So therefore you need to make sure you have a certain level of cover. Usually the cost is a little bit higher, but the cover is usually about £5 or £10 million for both the public indemnity and the employees liability insurance, as I mentioned. So it's about £10 million each, which sounds a lot, but it's a sufficient cover. It will be a little bit more expensive, but if you've got to that stage where you are supplying nationwide and you're supplying to the NHS and other bigger organizations, then it's going to be an insignificant cost. You'll be happy to pay that. Other than insurance, there's other sort of miscellaneous costs which you need to take into consideration, stationery, etc. There'll be the phone bills, and you need a printer, you need phones, etc. But these are insignificant costs, and you'll find these things come to you as and when you sort of need them. So I won't stress you out about them too much here. So just to summarize, what is it that you need when you first start off the business? So first of all, you need to have an office. I advise you to have an office. Okay, now office is very important. How big, how small, that's up to you. All the other costs associated with the office is something that you need to bear in mind. Do you have enough money to supply or to spend on your business as well as to live? You need to take all of those things into consideration. You don't need to worry too much about the legal elements in the UK. As I mentioned, go on Google, set up a company for £13 and you're set. You'll have the certificate, you'll have an address if you so wish to. everything is going to be set. It's going to be very, very easy. So there's no additional costs from that side. You do need to have a budget for marketing and advertising. Very, very important. As to where you advertise, all the different platforms, it's something for you to think about. And this is something where, again, if you need advice, if you need help, then please email me and I will try and answer to the best of my ability as to what type of marketing will be best for your business. Technology and software is something that you need to take into consideration, but as I've mentioned, when you're first starting off, you can just use something like Excel. You don't have to invest in a CRM system, but as soon as you can, invest in a CRM system because it will help you. It makes life a lot easier. And the recruitment costs, of course. So again, it's associated with the advertising and everything else, but the recruitment, what I'm talking about is having someone within the office who's helping you with the administration and so on and so on. So you need someone else who you are going to be putting on a salary, which you have to take into account, someone that you're going to have to pay a salary on a month-by-month basis. So once you've got all of those components, you're set. You can get going, but like always, that's the first step that you've taken. All of those things I mentioned, that's only the first step. As to, are you going to be successful? It all depends on you and the amount of effort that you put in. And that's where you need a coach, someone who is working with you to try and push you along to make sure that you are heading in the right direction. Because the other thing is, a lot of people waste a lot of time. And this is where a mentor or coach comes into place. You could be going with the best of intentions. You could be traveling in one direction, and a year and a half later, you find it was the wrong way. So you've just wasted a year and a half of your life. And also, not only have you wasted time, you wasted a hell of a lot of money in that process as well. You could have actually easily saved yourself that time and hassle and money if you got the right advice from the right person. And that's something which you really need to think about. Who do you talk to, and on what level of advice do you actually need? Everyone is in a different stage. Some people are starting off with little or no information about the business world. You need a little bit more help, and you need to have a certain, possibly a bit more money set aside to be able to get that assistance. Or maybe you've got all the time in the world, and you don't mind making a few mistakes on the way. I've done that. It took me a little bit of a time, but as I say, I didn't do this completely on my own. I always had my business partner who was a very experienced person, and he helped me a lot along the way, financially and also from a moral perspective. He always guided me on where to stop with the project and where I need to push forward a little bit more when I was almost on the verge of giving up. So there's all this help out there. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. I will always do a lot of videos based around this. If you have any comments, stick the comments below, and I'll try and answer those questions for you. But ultimately, if you want to be in contact with me, if you want to have a chat with me personally, then email me again, and we'll be in contact. Take care.